Rob, thank you so much for those use cases and how agencies have kind of leveraged Brandwatch through the years to better service their clients, to win pitches, and just do better work. I really appreciate that. We've actually had a whole bunch of questions from clients and from our team, and just from speaking to people over the last couple of months, that now that we've got you on the line, it'd be great to kind of get the answers directly from you, if that's okay. And I think the first one is, how easy is it to start using Brandwatch when you make that switch?
Yeah, so this is a good question. We do have quite a few clients every year that switch from different tools. It's a thing that many companies go through. And over the years, we have developed quite a good offering when it comes to onboarding, first of all, which is something that we do now for every new client. So first of all, you'll get a really good introduction to the Brandwatch just from our onboarding team. You'll get a plan of how things are going to progress afterwards as well. So after onboarding, you will usually be upskilled enough to already understand what Brandwatch is. And then beyond that, you also have your account management team, which helps you in figuring out more strategic things. So looking not just at what you want to do right now with your clients, but where you want to go beyond that, trying to get you to that next level and your clients to that next level. And apart from that, we have a lot of new things like the learning zone. We have a lot of materials already in the platform that can help you figure out anything that you need to do if you've forgotten how to do it beforehand. It just lets you figure out from the word go how to start using Brandwatch without even going through onboarding, essentially. So we make it as easy as possible. And then there are also levels to this, obviously, because you'll have your analysts that will be in the platform all the time, but you'll also want people from the business to maybe just have a quick dip into Brandwatch. Or even if someone that isn't usually working with social wants to go in and find some data, we also have something that caters to those people. So Brandwatch Search helps you just go into Brandwatch and use it as a browser, essentially. You just type in whatever you want and see data coming in from all of our different sources, our entire data library about a subject that you want to look into, and you won't have to learn Boolean or build a dashboard to actually look at it that way.
Yeah, we've actually got some good feedback about the search function. People are loving that, especially the execs who don't really have the time to go into the nitty-gritty of the platform. They get what they need out of the search. So another question that often comes up, especially where we are, is how your sentiment works, how your sentiment analysis works. Speak to me a little bit about accuracy, especially maybe in regions such as South Africa and Africa, where there's so many different languages and dialects.
Yeah, sure. So our sentiment analysis is based on natural language processing. So it's not going to be your usual, bad and good dictionary of words. It's going to look at everything from words and sentences around your query or your search term. It's going to look at positioning of the words in a specific sentence to look at positive, neutral, and negative sentiment. When it comes to accuracy, that's always an interesting question, because you might have two people in a room, ask them to look at 100 different posts, and they would not be, in accord with each other on what is positive and negative 100% of the time. So it really is, for us, more about quality rather than, categorizing everything. And specifically with our languages, we do support quite a few languages as our core languages in Brandwatch. But we won't have all of them, specifically from different dialects or African languages. So the key here is to understand that we also have tools that help you essentially build your own sentiment. We have rules that let you classify specific words or sentences as positive or negative and neutral if you want to. And then also a different way of categorizing things in your data sets altogether, which works on artificial intelligence, that helps you just teach the platform, not just looking at the words themselves, but at the context of what is in a mention, whether that's positive or negative. And the more you use of that technology, I won't go into it too much right now, but the more you use that technology, the better it gets at looking at sentiment, for example, or any other way that you want to classify your mentions or categorize your mentions, essentially.
Thanks, Rob. The other big question that we get a lot is things around Facebook and Instagram data. So we know that there's been a couple of years where Facebook has restricted data, and the question is often, our audience as a client, our audience is on Facebook. We want to find out more about what they're saying. So how does Brandwatch tackle that, and how good is the Facebook and Instagram data?
Yeah, so 2018 changed everything for everyone when it comes to Facebook and Instagram, and it did for us as well. We essentially, after December 2018, have always been compliant with Facebook and Instagram. So we always, did what they asked of every provider in the space, which was essentially taking out the data from a search query. So you can't query the entire internet for Facebook and Instagram data. We let you do that by putting in channels into the platform. So owned or non-owned channels, you can put them into Brandwatch for tracking, and then metrics from that channel will be tracked. And also, you'll be able to look at them alongside all of the other data that you look at in social. You'll also be able to track hashtags from Instagram as a standard. And that has essentially been what the market lets you do, and provider in the space lets you do. But what we're currently doing is we are going through a process of improving Facebook and Instagram coverage. So we are adding historical data for our channels. We are also changing our user experience completely to make it slightly more central, so that everyone knows where specific things are related to Facebook and Instagram, because sometimes it was maybe not challenging, but for example, the tracking of the hashtags and the channels were in two separate places. So it's going to be all in nice one spot on the platform right now. And more changes will be happening on that going forwards. And that is also because of the fact that we have always been compliant with Facebook and Instagram. We have always been on their good side. Therefore, we kind of already had a process for this. We had a structure to make it now essentially like a data vault that you will be collecting for all of your channels, that you'll be able to upload in bulk and then query them internally. So it's a really cool process, and that is going to be delivered, I believe, end of Q2. So watch this space.
And I think the historical data is there, or some of it is already live.
Yes, so the 400 days of historical data for channels is already live.
Yeah, it's incredible. The next one on the list that we get asked about a lot is tracking influencers and communities, individuals, and their effect on campaigns and trends. What does Brandwatch do around those?
Yeah, so that is another good question. We previously had, and still do have, a separate tool that takes care of audiences, and it is called Audiences. That's always there to kind of look at maybe a deeper dive into specific people behind the conversation, not just the conversation itself, as you would do with Brandwatch consumer research. But for a number of years now, we have been doing improvements in Brandwatch consumer research itself to add more things that let you look at communities alongside the data coming from queries. So very recently, we introduced something called social panels, which essentially lets you either define a group of people yourself or use a pre-built social panel. So for example, Gen Z, Gen X, and overlay that on your searches so that you can see the correlation between that group of people and what you're looking for. That's a very powerful tool that's been used every day by our clients. And then we also have a number of new components, for example, in the tool that let you look at affinities between your specific audience and the mean of people, on Twitter, for example. And those affinities aren't pre-built by us. We find the affinities that are most important to your target audience. So those can change over time, and you can see how that changes alongside it. So we're essentially have been and are still improving on having more components looking at community within Brandwatch consumer research and not just audiences, which is separate.
Yeah. I love how social panels has made things so easy. I had that question recently. Can we find Gen Z South Africans and what they're talking about this topic? And usually that would take a bit of work, and now it's 3 clicks and it's done. So
yeah,
very helpful.
It's always the way when these things come around. You can't really imagine what was before that, because it's so easy to do now. But with a few of these things, there existed a time before where you'd have to build a lot of stuff yourself and it would take hours, but now it's just 2 clicks away.
Yeah. So then finally, if agencies and organizations have probably been using some kind of social listening tool up to this point, what would be your argument to switch, to upgrade, to take the leap to something like Brandwatch?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as mentioned before, switching is never easy, but Brandwatch has actually scored the best on current offering, strategy, and market presence on the last Forrester Wave, which essentially means that we are best in class when it comes to social listening. Market presence means that we have the biggest client base, so we know how to work with clients that are switching from one tool to the other. And as mentioned previously as well, we have an extremely good onboarding process and an amazing team of customer success people and professional services people that will help you, first of all, figure out what you need to start off with, and then help you get to that next level with social. So that's what I can say for us, for Brandwatch, that we commit to our customers and just always want to, get on that journey with you and take you to the next step.
Fantastic. Rob, thank you so much. I really appreciate the stories and the answers to some of our questions, and hope to see you soon. So appreciate your help.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Take care.
Cheers.